if you are on the $5 tier on David's Patreon by September 14th, your name could be on the back of the album. So give David money, or else.
And all my patrons get to download it for free. So it doesn't matter what your tier is. If as long as you join Patreon before the end of the month or whatever, you'll be able to download the EP for free.
It's not a request, it's a demand. All right. So hello. I am Andy, and if you look to my left right there, you'll see someone. If you've watched my Ocarina videos, there's like a 99.7 chance you know who he is. So this is David Erick Ramos, arguably the most well-known Ocarina player in America, if not the West, the English-speaking world. He's been making Ocarina videos for 13-ish years now, is that right?
That is correct.
And some of his notable Ocarina-related projects include recording a studio album, writing a method book, and starting an ensemble, Okabanda.
Yep.
Anything else you like to include in that, in your self-introduction?
That's pretty encapsulating, so thank you.
Cool. So let's start with your Ocarina story. So what was your first Ocarina?
Gosh, yeah, so I got my first Ocarina back in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
It was my 15th birthday, and I was a huge Zelda fan, so it had to be a Zelda Ocarina. And the only one that was available at the time, at least on a wide scale, was the Songbird 6-hole, wasn't even 6, it was 5-hole pendant Ocarina, the sweet potato.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had it for 2 weeks, and then I dropped it on the floor.
No.
So it was a shortly lived but an amazing experience with that Ocarina.
I feel like if you get your first Ocarina, you love it, and then you drop it, it just it leaves a big void of you wanting more in your life. So if David Ramos never dropped that Ocarina and in the year 2000, then I don't know if we would have the same Ocarina community as we would today, because you are I need to make up for this. Was that like a motivation in your head?
It definitely created this itch. And my immediate reaction after crying was, I need to get a new one. So I saved up my own allowance money, and oddly, I didn't want to get another Zelda Ocarina. I felt like, okay, that was a Zelda Ocarina. Let's see what the other competition is like from Songbird's lineup. And he was selling 5 other sized pendant Ocarinas. So I bought 2 of them for the same price roughly as the sweet potato. And I really like them. I still have them today. I did not drop those. And actually, I put the Ocarina down for the rest of my high school education and didn't pick it up again until I got back into college a couple years later. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't into the Ocarina for a period of time. And then out of nowhere, I found one on eBay, which was a 12-hole Ocarina. Mm-hmm. Didn't know those things existed, and decided to grab this one by Spencer Register and fell in love with it all over again.
Yeah, I actually have some Ocarinas. I made an order with Spencer a couple of weeks ago. So I've wanted one of those Ocarinas ever since I've seen his super fancy Ocarina of Time, and I was like, oh, that's so shiny, I want it. So was that Ocarina of Time the 12-hole that you bought?
It was. That was my third Ocarina, first 12-hole, and that I would say is what really kicked off my career with the Ocarina.
So speaking of your career with the Ocarina, is that the Ocarina we see in your video from 13 years ago, Song of Time on the Ocarina?
Yes, that was my first, not my first YouTube video. Actually, I'll let your viewers go back and do some digging to see if they can find my first YouTube video. But my first Ocarina video was the Song of Time, which we hit 10 million views on that video a couple months ago, earlier in the year.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that sort of really illustrates the influence that Zelda has on the Ocarina community. Whether we want it or not, and whether there's disagreements on whether it's the best thing to push within the community. The Ocarina community owes a lot of its success and growth in recent years to the Legend of Zelda, and it's just a really cool thing. Yeah.
I think if not for that video game, this whole generation would have missed out on it. Like the Ocarinas were still being made around the time that Ocarina of Time came out. There was some American makers still making them, but like Songbird, he was just making the little circle 4-hole pendants and wasn't getting a lot of traction. It was just kind of like going to a market, selling them on a table as a little souvenir trinket. But there's no doubt that without Ocarina of Time, this whole generation, we still wouldn't know what that instrument was.
Mm-hmm. So like for a lot of people, the Ocarina of Time caused them to pick up the ocarina and get them to the point where they realize like, oh, this is the instrument for me. What was that point for you? Like when you realized the ocarina was for you?
So going back to my childhood, I've always had two huge passions, which were video games and music. And my dad was obsessed with video games, and that's how we bonded. Actually, a lot of the time was he liked to beat us up in Street Fighter, and and we did a lot of co-op games together on Nintendo. And then with music, I was just really fortunate that my parents, they were separated when I was pretty young, but both of them saw that gift in me, that I was just so in love with music that they exposed me to so many different varieties and bought me instruments when I was like, I want to play the piano, I want to play percussion, like I want to play not guitar. I didn't get a guitar until later, but they could see that was one of my biggest passions. Mm-hmm. So up until the release of Ocarina of Time, I was I didn't find any other game that melded those two things together so perfectly. So when I found out that the Ocarina existed, I was blown away. I grabbed it when I was 15, like I said, and I felt an instant connection to it because it brought music and gaming together into reality. So probably then, I think. Okay,
yeah. So that's like for me personally, like that's the exact sort of same process that I went through going into the Ocarina. Like I've gaming and music have always been a big part of my life as well. And like this interview isn't about me, but like I totally like I think that's how a lot of people had the Ocarina as their tipping point, because like if you go to Ocarina conventions, if you talk to Ocarina people online, like I would say like a solid like 89 to 95% like all love video games. And for many of us, it's that blend between video gaming and music from The Legend of Zelda that made the Ocarina like this perfect encapsulation of like what we wanted to do.
Yeah. But also more specifically, I think our generation, kind of like that 18 to 30s ish. Because when you go to like the Ocarina festivals in Italy or Germany or in Asia, they don't know what Zelda is really. Like they understand it's a video game, but they don't have the same connection that we do with it. And so that's a whole nother thing. They like the instrument, they like the history behind it. They might have even seen it in some movies, or their parents played the Ocarina when they were younger. So their connection is entirely different to ours. But for sure, here in the US, if you mention Ocarina, the first thing that comes to about 80-90% of people's minds is The Legend of Zelda.
Oh, absolutely 100%. Like, and going off of the whole generational thing, like you were talking about how like in Asia and Europe, like a lot of the people from the generation that grew up before that didn't grow up with Zelda, they know the Ocarina from different ways. But like even like outside of like the Western world, like Europe and the United States, like people from the younger generations, like I have a lot of Japanese friends because I had a Japanese minor, and almost all of them, when I pulled out the Ocarina, they like made a reference to Legend of Zelda. So like I think it's like globally, like if Zelda was part of your childhood, that's probably how you know the Ocarina, if you're in like the 18 to 30s range.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we've discussed your first 3 Ocarinas. How many do you have now?
Up until earlier this year, I would still my normal reply was I have no idea. I knew it was over 200. However, I actually counted them during quarantine because what else was I supposed to do? and I found out I have around 250. with a few more on the way, because I think I started the unhealthy habit during quarantine of like just getting more ocarinas. Because also what happened at the beginning of quarantine was I started getting really bad migraines. And I've since found out some of the reasons why, which was bad posture when playing the ocarina, ironically, for long periods of time. So I started getting some inflammation in my nerves. And it started causing these really serious migraines. So I couldn't play the ocarina for several months, and so I just started buying more. So I think I bought like 24 in quarantine.
Like, if I can't play it, I'll obtain it.
And so yeah, I have close to 250, and I have at least one more on the way.
Awesome. Like, I strive to have a collection of your size one day, like with like from stuff ranging from like, because you have stuff that ranges all the way back to like the 1850s, right? Or like from like made by Donati.
Not by Donati. That's a dream of mine to have one of his. I played a Donati ocarina, and it's pretty amazing. But the earliest ocarina I have is probably by the Mazzetti brothers, who were pupils of Donati, and it's pretty awesome because there's a lineage of ocarina makers from Budrio, the city where the ocarina was first invented. And it started with Donati, and he had some assistants, and then they carried on the tradition of making ocarinas, and then they trained the next generation, and it's just been happening since the 1850s like that. And so the Mazzetti brothers were pupils of Donati, but probably considered the third generation of ocarina makers.
Okay.
So I have 2 or 3 Mazzetti ocarinas,
so just
which are like 1860s, 1870s.
That is awesome. So just for context, for those of you who don't know the history of the ocarina, ocarinas in some way, shape, or form have been around for thousands of years, but the modern iteration of the ocarina, that's the 12-hole design that looks like that people call the sweet potato, that was invented by Giuseppe Donati in 1853 in Budrio, Italy. If you want to know more, do more research. We're talking about David today. All right, so we've talked about your collection, your story with like how you went from 1 to ocarina to 250 ocarinas. Since you have been in the game for so long, if a new ocarina player approached you right now and asked, "How do I get better at this?" what would be the best singular tip you would give them?
Because I've had this interaction multiple times in person and like at conventions and stuff, the first thing I would do is make sure that they have a good ocarina. There's this inside joke about the existence of this ocarina called the Ocarina of Crap, as opposed to Ocarina of Time, because there's this large manufacturing of these poorly tuned Zelda ocarinas that Andy, I think, recently made a video about.
Yeah, I'll put there's a card right, I guess there.
I think so.
Click on that card if you want to see why they're so bad.
On your left.
Yeah, it's mirroring it for my display, and that's what it's capturing. So I think it's right there. Let's hope so.
Definitely watch that video, because yes, I think starting with a good ocarina is the number one priority. Because if you're starting with a poorly tuned ocarina, it doesn't matter what kind of technique you learn, because it's going to come out wrong no matter what you do. So make sure you have a really good ocarina. I also have a video about some beginner suggestions, or suggestions for beginners, and then learn how to read sheet music. Tabs are good for beginners because they give you confidence with playing the ocarina itself, but in the long run it really helps to start developing your music theory skills and learning how to read traditional music sheets. I also have a series and a book about how to read sheet music. It's called How to Play Ocarina. You can just search that on YouTube.
There will be a link in the description.
The series is free. Thank you,
I'm not pointing at my legs. I'm pointing at the link in the description.
Thank you for the clarification. But each I filmed a whole video series about it. The first 6 episodes are for free on YouTube. The other 6 come when you buy the book. And it has, each lesson's about 12 to 15 minutes. And if you just look at the comments on those videos, so many people are like, I learned a little bit about music theory in high school, but I never got the hang of it. But with your videos, I am reading music in the first 30 minutes. And yeah, I wanted to make it approachable for even beginners, people who have no music theory experience. So learn how to read music. It's not as complicated as you think. Third would be play music that you enjoy, but also music that challenges you. Because I think something that a lot of new Ocarina players run into is, and they have in their mind, I want to play Zelda's Lullaby, or I want to play A Song of Time. And then they're like, well, I accomplished that. And then they put the Ocarina on a shelf. But if you find a song that you're not only passionate about, but that challenges you to grow musically, that's where you build your confidence as well as your skills. And even learning something more like Song of Storms or Saria Song. Those are amazing tunes, but they're not the easiest to play for beginners. So just set the bar a little bit higher than what you're capable of, and then you'll feel more motivated to keep going.
I 100% agree with everything that you said. Like, because if you don't have a good so just bullet pointing, all that. Like, if you don't have a good ocarina, then it's just pointless. Because no matter how good your technique is, it won't come out right. So if you're just starting, get something like get a reliable starter ocarina that could be a plastic like Night by Noble, or if you really feel passionately that you'll go with the ocarina, get a high quality ceramic and just roll with that. And then honestly, like if you like David said, you have like there are a lot of there's amazing resources for beginners for playing the ocarina. So like buy David's book. It's not a choice. You must buy David's book. But yeah, like if you just go on David's channel, you watch some of the lessons, watch some of the Oktalk videos from like ranging from very recently to less recent. There's amazing resources like just like on David's channel, on other channels. There's new people popping up who are making a lot of tutorial videos for ocarina in many languages. So no matter where you live, there probably will be resources for you. So yeah, get a good ocarina and get a plan. That's honestly the best way to start. Totally.
And then also have a goal. So yeah, finding more challenging songs, but the most rewarding thing I found throughout my career is sharing music. So not just having the goal of like, I'm going to learn a new song, but something like, I'm going to play this new song for fill in the blank, for my siblings, for my parents, for my family, for my friends, whenever we're allowed to play for our friends.
Yep.
And like go to when we're allowed to go to an open mic, make the decision to go busking, just play in the streets. And the thing I love about busking is it's not as high pressure as performing like at an open mic. You're just kind of out there playing, and you might annoy some people, but you also might impress and inspire some people. And the blessing of that is that if they don't like what you're doing, they can keep on walking. But I love busking. I love showing people what the ocarina is and what it can do. And so that's like a really low bar if you want to like get rid of some stage fright jitters.
Yeah, like with busking, the worst thing that'll possibly happen is like somebody tells you to stop and move somewhere else. Like that's the worst thing that'll possibly happen. If you mess up your notes, if people aren't listening, they won't care. If people are listening, they won't notice. And the best thing that could happen is either someone just spontaneously joins you for a jam session, or someone gives you money. It's great performance practice. Like I'm confident playing in front of a crowd because like I would busk at conventions, I would busk in foreign countries. Like it's what's the best confidence builder. So
which is how I met Andy, was because he was busking at conventions.
At FanimeCon 2015. We've known each other for over 5 years now.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So speaking of playing in front of people, one of our biggest projects is Okabanda. And while I may be a part of it, it really is like your baby because you were the one who brought everyone together. So what was like your biggest inspiration for starting Okabanda?
Yeah, so Okabanda is our ocarina ensemble, and it draws inspiration from the how the Ocarina was initially started. So we mentioned Giuseppe Donati and how he's from this little town in Italy. Most of his friends, the people that he trained to make ocarinas, were actually in the very first ocarina ensembles. So they all played in this band together of ocarinas. And initially it was 5 people. And then because Donati only made 5 sizes of ocarina. And so everyone in the ensemble plays 5 different sizes. But then later he added 2 bass ocarinas. So there was a total of 7. And so you have soprano C, soprano G, alto C, alto G, bass C, bass G, and contrabass C. And
for visual reference. Continue.
Yeah, I play the soprano G, which is the number 2 spot. Andy plays the bass G, which is the number 6 spot, or bass 2nd spot from the bottom. And then everyone just harmonizes together. So one of the downsides of the ocarina is its limited range, but the ensemble kind of extends that because they all have the same tonal qualities, but different ranges. And so we all kind of play different parts of the piece, like the bass section or the melody section or the harmony section. And it just creates this really beautiful calliope. I think that's the instrument type sound. And I first discovered this ensemble from going to Italy. Every 2 years in Budrio, they have a huge international ocarina festival. And I first went in 2011, and I was just blown away because the only context I'd really seen the ocarina being played in is as a soloist. Like Link plays it by himself. Melody from Pokemon 2000, she plays it by herself.
Play your character in Animal Crossing.
Anime, yes, it's always, well, in Animal Crossing you can play with friends too, but seeing it like this arranged in such an extravagant way, it was mesmerizing. It sounded beautiful, and I just had this inspiration to do it myself. So fast forward from 2011 to 2017, I think it was. I met everyone in the group from different ways. Andy I met at a convention. Tad I met at another convention. Jordan and Ella I met online. I'd seen their videos of them playing the ocarina. Caitlin I also met at a convention. And Steven, we needed a replacement. Not a replacement, but we needed to fill in the last spot. And so it was I had kind of like a contest, and people submitted them playing in it, and Steven was amazing. And he just picked up the ocarina. He didn't really have that much skill as an ocarinist, but he had the wind instrument skill because he plays sax and clarinet, right?
He plays many instruments.
He does, actually, yeah. But he was a music student at a college, and so he has that experience. And so I contacted everyone and I said, hey guys, I have this crazy idea. Can you all fly to Los Angeles and let's just see if we can make this work? And everyone was trusting and decided to join me on that dream. And we just kind of practiced for 3 or 4 days and then went to Anime Expo, which is the largest anime-related convention in the United States. And we just played for the whole weekend and everyone loved it. And we decided, hey, let's try to keep this going.
Yeah, that was Anime Expo was so fun. And because everyone in Okabanda knows what happened from the point of contact with David onward, but we rarely talk about the origin of the Italian ocarina ensembles and how it's just the ocarina ensemble is a really awesome concept because of the limited range. It's very rare that one ocarina has the melody the entire time, unless it's the Wind Waker song, in which case Steven is playing the melody for 25 minutes straight. But the melody moves between instruments, so it's a really cool dynamic of everyone having to come and work together to achieve that common goal, and sort of you really have to understand who you're playing with and the music that you're doing to have it come out properly. And it's a really cool music concept, which is why I was so on board when you were like, hey Andy, do you read sheet music?
So see, it's good that you knew how to read sheet music already.
So
I think everyone needed to practice, myself included, reading the sheet music. So the sooner the viewers who are watching this start reading sheet music, the better prepared you are for those kinds of
Yeah,
experiences.
like for context, David and I are originally mainly vocalists, and
Yes.
vocalists have a reputation with sheet music, and that's all I'll say about that.
It's true.
I'm not wrong, but I'm not gonna say more. So, going from sheet music to data spreadsheets on YouTube, describe like the evolution of your channel over time, like from uploading like short Ocarina clips to what it is now. Like, what have been the biggest changes in your own content and the algorithm, and how you've had to adapt to that?
That's a good question.
And
so
if we're low on time, let me know. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I'll tie this to an earlier question, which was like, how did I know this was my instrument? So when I got my Spencer Ocarina, which is my first 12-pole, I paid somewhere close to $250 for it, which for ocarinas is kind of expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom told me, if you're going to spend this much on this instrument, you should find a way to share it. And so this was 2006, which was YouTube had just been out for like a year, and I didn't put much thought or effort into my first couple of videos. It was kind of just like, I'm just going to play some video game songs, some couple Zelda tunes, and film it in my bathroom and just throw it on YouTube, and we'll see what happens. And at the time, there weren't really any Ocarina videos. There were a few in two different styles. One was like, this is the Zelda song I can play, or hey, look what I can do. And it was just like people wiggling their fingers, making strange sounds. And having spent a couple months with this Ocarina, the Spencer one, I knew it could do a lot of stuff, and it was a beautiful instrument. And so I just was like, I'm going to learn a couple tunes that aren't Zelda related and just see how they do as well. So I put those couple of videos up December 31st, 2006. And I was blown away by the response. Within a week, I had like 10,000 views on each video. And in those days, that was a lot of people watching. And so all the comments were like, oh, we want to see more. You play really well. Please keep posting. And that's when I was like, okay, this is something I really want to invest more time into. So I started learning more songs. I started incorporating more editing. I started choosing better backdrops, better lighting, and it just slowly turned into like a weekly thing. And then we started building community. Back then, YouTube had these groups that you could join and share your videos with. And so we came up with these monthly challenges for everyone in the group to like play the same song and just to kind of encourage each other. And it was just like a really beautiful musical thing.
I'm sad that it took me till like 2011 to pick up the Ocarina, because like I would have loved to be a part of that back in the day.
Yeah, it was pretty special.
Mm-hmm.
And so like today it's my full-time gig. So my job has multiple aspects. I make the YouTube videos, which are music videos and tutorials. I do recording for special gigs. Like a couple years ago, I played on the soundtrack for a game called Yoku's Island Express in a couple tunes. I played with the Nintendo's Legend of Zelda Symphony of the Goddesses, which was touring for a couple years. I played with Video Games Live. And I teach privately. I have a couple of original albums and just like anything that can be related to the Ocarina, I probably am attached to it in some way.
Mm-hmm. Gotta get like gotta dabble in everything at least a little bit.
Yes.
I mean, because with an ocarina, with an instrument as niche as the ocarina, you kind of need to dabble in everything if you're gonna make a career out of it. Because at least like in Europe and Asia, it is a much more viable instrument in terms of people knowing about it and like just being able to do like strictly performance with it. But in the United States, unless you are having a pretty diverse portfolio of things due to the general lack of knowledge, unless it's via Zelda, it's important to like do the videos and recording and all that. So
yeah, totally.
like there's not that much space in the niche because of that, but you've like consistently been on top of that, and that's really impressive. All right, two things. There will be quickly talking about your project that is something that, and then rapid fire questions. All right, so currently you have a big project that you're working on that people can contribute to on Patreon. Talk more about that in a quick 30-second advertisement. Go.
Thanks, Andy. So, yeah, as I mentioned, I have a couple of original albums, but the last time I put out anything original was the end of 2016. So I figured it was due time for another original project. So I decided to, instead of doing one big album that was going to take 6 to 8 months to produce, I wanted to do 3 smaller EPs and then release them periodically. So the first EP is going to be dropping at the end of September, and each EP has a different theme, which I haven't talked much about. So the first EP was going to be more acoustic folk world style. The second EP, I wanted to be more classical symphonic. And then the last one, I wanted to be more EDM synthwave.
Ooh.
And that's mainly because I love music. I have a love for all different styles and genres of music, and I just can't decide which one to focus on.
Well, it sounds like that's the perfect strategy for that, because like it makes more sense to have all those on separate albums, but also you want to do all of it. So
yeah,
you can contribute if you are on the $5 tier on David's Patreon by September 14th. Your name could be on the back of the album. So give David money, or else.
And all my patrons get to download it for free. So it doesn't matter what your tier is. As long as you join Patreon before the end of the month or whatever, you'll be able to download the EP for free.
It's not a request, it's a demand. All right. Quick, rapid fire questions. Describe yourself in 3 emojis. I will edit them onto the screen.
I'm going to cheat and I'm going to look at my phone to see my most used ones. For sure, the musical note one. And I'm going to say the smiley face, the big smile with the eyes closed, and then probably the blue heart.
All right, next, your 3 favorite memes at the moment. So we can definitely date this video. So when people watch it a year from now, they'll think, wow, 2020 was weird.
Yeah, I guess right now, the dancing stick, the dancing stick bug, that was kind of funny. Coffin dance, that was really good. Probably it was a couple months ago. And gosh, I'm trying to think of something off TikTok. There's so many trends. I contributed to a meme, which was the Shy Kids. If you go and do hashtag Shy Kids on TikTok, it's pretty cringy, but the base was my cover of Kokiri Forest, so I'll just choose that one.
Okay, cool. All right, and then last 3 people you'd like to shout out.
I'll do a cheat, and I'll say Okabanda, which includes Andy, Ella, Jordan, Steven, Caitlin, and Tad. Love you guys and can't wait to play together again. I will shout out my patrons for all their support in making these EPs possible. And let's shout out Donati for making all of this possible.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Yes.
All right. So David, thank you for your time. I know that it's a crazy world that we're in right now, and I'm glad that we can have time to produce content such as this. Everyone subscribe to David. There should be a card in one of these directions up there. I suddenly forgot how to speak English. So David, thank you again. If there's any final thoughts you have, now speak now or forever hold your peace.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you for everyone for watching. And you can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and have fun learning to play Ocarina.
Heck yeah, it's a fun instrument. This has been a fun interview. See ya later.